If you're a finance leader in a startup and you're thinking about hiring, there is one mistake that I see over and over again. This is part of my Startup Finance Mistake series, and in this video, I'm going to explain why many finance teams outgrow their hires far sooner than expected and what strong CFOs do differently. And if you stay to the end, I'll show you how a simple way to think about finance hiring that will help you build a team where business is going and not where it is today. So you definitely want to check that out if you're looking to really build out your finance function within your startup or scale up as a finance leader. My name's Alysha Randall. I'm a CFO and I've been working in startups and scale ups for 20 years now in London. I'm also an author of a book, How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up, and I post a video every single Thursday. So click on the subscribe button if you want to see all of the videos that I post every single Thursday. One big finance mistake that I see in startups isn't around forecasting, cash flow, reporting. It's actually hiring. And more specifically, it's building a finance team for the business that you have today instead of the business that you're trying to become. So I've seen the mistakes from both sides. Worked with founders who are building finance functions for the first time, and I've joined the business as fractional CFO or a full-time CFO and inherited finance teams that weren't really fit for the business that was currently heading towards. And the challenge is that startups really grow up quickly. So if you've worked in startups and scale ups before, you know that it can move fast. And the finance team that maybe worked perfectly 12 months ago or today, that might be already struggling to support that next stage of growth. So what do you need to do instead? So most finance hiring is reactive. So the problem often starts because hiring decisions are made in the response of pain. So for example, is month ends taking too long, reporting quality is poor, cash flow visibility is weak, the founder might not trust the numbers, the finance team's overwhelmed, and so the business decides, okay, we need someone to fix this immediate issue. So the problem is that the hire is designed, so the job spec, the role that everybody's looking to interview, is to solve today's challenges rather than supporting tomorrow's growth. So 6 months later, the business has doubled in complexity and the finance function is going to struggle again. So hiring for current volume instead of future complexities, and this is a really big mistake simply because future growth doesn't just mean more transaction, it creates complexity. So as the business scales, finance often needs stronger controls, better and more regular forecasting, investor reporting, cash runway management, business partnering, and much more sophisticated systems. So the skills required to manage, say, a £2 million revenue business is often quite different to someone who needs to manage 10 million or 20 million or 50 million revenue business. So when building a finance team, it's worth asking, what will the business look like in 18 months? And not just what problem are we trying to solve today. Technical strengths and ignoring commercial skills. So this is something I have seen before. A finance leader is hired because they are technically excellent. That might be producing accounts, managing audits, building controls, ensuring compliance, all those kind of technical skills that are becoming less and less relevant as we all have AI at the touch of a button. But startups really do need more than technical experience. This is ignoring AI that we have today. This is even the case 10 years ago. So as a business scales, finance leaders really need to be spending a lot of time on influencing decisions, challenging assumptions, understanding commercial drivers, communicating with non-finance team. And the most successful CFOs are rarely the ones that are the most technical in the room. They're the people who can connect financial information with business decisions. Keeping the team too junior for too long. So this is probably more common than hiring too senior too early. Many startups try to stretch the finance team beyond its natural capability. I would say that this is quite common because experienced founders see a finance function as just compliance. They don't actually understand the commercial insights that a finance function can provide them. And so they just see finance as a cost center. And so they try and keep the finance function as minimal as possible. With really experienced founders and ones that have built successful exits and are hoping to do that again, will generally hire a CFO much quicker, or at least a fractional CFO. So, examples of when you see that the founder or a finance function is just kept too junior for too long is when a finance manager is expected to perform CFO responsibilities, bookkeepers are expected to build forecasts, controllers are expected to lead strategic planning, and the result is usually relatively predictable. The reporting becomes incredibly reactive rather than proactive. Forecasting quality suffers. It just doesn't help the business make business decisions, and finance spends all its time looking backwards and not forwards. So none of this reflects badly on the actual individual. They're just simply asked to do a role that they haven't had the opportunity to grow into yet. So thinking about roles instead of functions. So one thing I've learned over the years is that great finance teams aren't built around job titles, rather built around responsibilities. So when I think about a finance function, I think about areas such as the day-to-day and then financial control and reporting, forecasting and FP&A, treasury and cash management, and then business partnering. So the question becomes who owns each of these responsibilities? And once you understand that, then the hiring decisions become a lot easier. So building the future team early. One of the first exercises that I completed in my current CFO role, that as a point of the time of recording this, I've only been in for 3 months. I had to very much look at where is the finance team today and where do I think the finance team need to be in 5 years' time, because we had a high level 5 year budget. And I know where the founder and the investors want the business to be in, say, 5 years' time. So, not because I want to hire all these people tomorrow, but because it's helping me identify the capability gaps, and it changes the conversation to who should we hire next, to what capabilities will the business need to grow. And by doing this exercise, it's a much more strategic way of thinking about finance hiring. And it's easier then to see where you are today and how do you move the team up into that 5 year plan. Who could potentially move around, and how could you mold that the right way? Not every problem needs a full-time hire. So this is another trap that you can easily fall into, and that's across the business, obviously, not just finance. A complexity increases and the instinct is often to hire. Now, often that's the right answer, but then sometimes it isn't. So there is obviously alternatives. This is becoming much more prevalent at the moment with AI. But putting AI and software into a bucket, it may just be automation. So looking at where you can automate, or it might even be process improvement. You may just have bad processes. And actually, I would prefer teams to look at their processes before automation, because often automation can just make a bad process worse. So by looking at the way you're doing your processes first, you may find that there is better ways of doing things and it may cut a lot of time. You may want to consider outsource support. So outsource bookkeeping is very common, or fractional CFO is also common. Specialized contractors. So if there's a particular project, then potentially you may want to outsource that. And as I mentioned, fractional expertise. So the goal isn't to build the biggest finance team. The goal is to build the right finance function that can support the business growth. The question every finance leader should ask is, before making a finance hire, will this person still be the right hire if the business doubles over the next 18 months? And if the answer is no, then it might be worth taking a step back and thinking about the longer term structure. Or is it because you may just need a contractor in for a short amount of time? So hiring is really expensive, both resources and getting somebody in, so both time and cash. So replacing the wrong hire is much more expensive. So finance hiring mistakes many startups make is building a team for today's business instead of tomorrow. So strong finance leaders really think differently. They think about future capabilities, future complexities, and the future structure, and then build the finance function accordingly. So the goal isn't simply to solve today's problems, it's to create a finance team that can really support the next stage of growth. So this is part of Startup Finance Mistakes series. What I've also done is talked about why startups run out of cash, why startup forecasts are often wrong, KPI mistakes, and 5 skills every future CFO must learn. So I'll link those above and below. If you want to be a competent and confident finance leader in the next 12 months, then I've got a 3-step plan for you. The first one is to hit the subscribe button so you get all of my videos every single week. The second one is to check out my book, Financial Leadership Fundamentals, How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up, where I have very pragmatic actions at the end of every single chapter that you can implement in your role today, even if you're not in a finance leadership role. And then finally, we do have a course, if you're interested, where we do Q&A sessions every single month, where you can have a chat with me and talk about things that you can do in your role specifically. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video. Cheers.